Hello, my name is Garrett Houston, and this is my global nutrition presentation. I'm doing England. I chose England because I've lived there for over a year now, and when we started the class, I was in England, and I got back last week. I thought it'd be really cool to just get to relate what we've been learning about in global nutrition in this nutrition class to England, to where I've been and to where I've seen. So this is going to be a presentation about England. My name is Garrett Houston, and here we are. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about the nutritional average. So I'm going to talk to you about what different nutrient intakes the people of England have and what kind of the national average is. Then we're going to move into dietary customs. What things do they eat and why? The next subject is going to be popular foods. What are the big foods that are eaten across the country, and what kind of meals do they like to prepare? Then we're going to talk about body weight, kind of what the average body weight between male and female is. Are they a healthy weight? Are they underweight or overweight? That type of thing. Then we're going to move into fitness habits. What type of fitness do people in England partake in, and how much of it? What do people exercise? A lot, a little? And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the nutrient guidelines. What is their big nutritional guideline that they look at? What is suggested for them, and where do they go to see what they should be eating and what they shouldn't be eating? All of this while hopefully tying into some stories and some things that I experienced while I was over there. So let's start with the nutritional average. So over there in England, these are some of the things that they consume a lot of, consume but not enough of. So this is going to be more of a look at what kind of things they don't get enough of. First and foremost is fruits and vegetables, which their consumption is below the recommended amount. And later on we'll see how this is strange based on some of their customs. The same thing with fish. Their fish consumption is not at the recommended amount either, which is very odd for England due to some of their customs and due to how their country is set up. You would think that fish consumption would be higher than it is, but it isn't. The next thing is their processed meat consumption. This is another odd one. It is above the average, but when you look at what most of their country is made up of and what kind of the big trend over there is now, it's kind of strange that it's above the consumption. Next is sugars. They are double the recommended amount of sugars, and a big reason for this is because of the culture of tea and coffee drinkers, which is very interesting and very cool, and we're going to talk more about that later. Then we move on to fiber. They are below on fiber consumption, and I just added that in there because that seems to be a big one. And then vitamin and mineral consumption, they used to be on average, but over the last couple of years they've been having a steady decline in their vitamin and mineral intake, which has dropped them to below the recommended amount. And for what is considered to be pretty healthy people, that seems to be very interesting that they're not getting the vitamin and mineral consumption that they need. Now let's look at their dietary customs. So as I was saying earlier, some of these things are strange based on their customs, some of the consumption that isn't the recommended amount. Most of the things they do pretty well in, but those things that we just talked about are things that they're either below or way above, which is interesting. The first big thing about England is that it is an island, which means that the fishing culture is very popular. That is a large portion of their industry and income there. A lot of people fish, and a lot of people like to eat fish, which is why it's so interesting that they're below the recommended amount for fish intake, since fish and chips, which we've all heard about, is what England is like overwhelmingly famous for, is their fish and chips. And so it's just very strange that their intake of fish is not at the recommended amount, being that the country depends so heavily on fishing. Another big thing over there is baking. Baking is big, and we've all heard of Mary Berry and the Great British Bake Off and all that kind of stuff. And those TV shows have really made baking super popular, and everybody over there pretty much bakes. And baking is a huge culture over there, which is probably another reason why their sugar intake is so high, is because of how much baking they do. One of the reasons that the fruit and vegetable intake is so low, and the reason that it's so strange that it's low, is because people over there love their gardens. They love to grow fresh fruits and vegetables. They're very into doing the whole homegrown fruits and vegetables, and not going the supermarket route and getting the genetically modified fruits and vegetables. That is something they're very aware of, and they love to grow fruits and vegetables. And it's funny because their gardens aren't very big, so they don't really have much space for it, but yet they still love to do it, and they do a lot of it. Another thing that England is well known for is their pies and sausages. They eat lots of pies and lots of sausages and different bakes that have like pie crust with meats in them. And for breakfast they have sausages. They like other meals with sausages. And this is another reason why their processed meat intake is so high, is because of the pies and the sausages and the meat pies and all that kind of stuff that they eat. They eat lots and lots and lots of them. It is interesting that in England they have a very strong Indian influence, so there's a lot of Indian foods that are incorporated, which we'll see in the next slide about the popular foods. But it's a big thing over there. They have tons of takeout restaurants that are Indian based, and really it's a massive culture of Indian people there. And another reason it's interesting that they're over the processed meat amount is because they have a very high population of vegetarians. A lot of people are very into the vegetarian meal and lifestyle. Not all people are strict on it, but they do have lots and lots of people who try to stick to a vegetarian lifestyle. So with that in mind, you would think that their intake of processed meats would be much lower than it is, but it is actually quite high. So now let's look at some of the popular meals. Almost 30% of the country, when asked, said that one of the popular meals that they make on a weekly basis is roast chicken. And in my experience, this wasn't one of the more popular ones in my area, but you'll get that in the different areas you go. You'll get different foods and different popular meals. But roast chicken is very popular, and my family like to make roast chicken casserole. So that's the top most popular meal there. Next, with 27% of the country saying this is a popular meal and something they cook on a weekly basis, spaghetti bolognese, which is just essentially our spaghetti. And they really love this meal, and they have it all the time. England kind of started the whole stir-fry culture, and so stir-fry and foods that are stir-fry are very popular over there, and they love to do their stir-fry. And this is 12% of the country would say that stir-fry is a meal they cook on a weekly basis. Another 12% of the country would say sausage and mash, which is obviously we all know sausage, and mash, which is mashed potatoes. This is a stereotypical English dinner that they have. The next big meal, which is 10% of the country would say they have this on a weekly basis, is some type of curry. And this is the influence of the Indian culture coming in. Curry has become very big. When I was over there, could not get away from curry. I had curry at least once a week. Everywhere I went, they loved curry, and it was so big. Another big thing over there was shawarma, which is like a wrap with meat, either lamb or chicken, different vegetables and stuff like that in it. And so curry and shawarma are huge over there. And then lastly, which I never had a pork chop when I was over there, but 7% of the country would say that they eat pork chop on a weekly basis. So that's a big one. For me, the most interesting thing is that roast dinner wasn't on here because every Sunday, most families have a roast dinner with roast beef and vegetables and mashed potatoes and just different foods like that. So that was an interesting one that I thought would be on the list, but is not actually on the most popular food items list. So let's look at body weight. Among the nation, overall, between men and female, they have a healthy body weight. Men, 39% of men are healthy and at a good body weight. And women, 46% are at a healthy body weight, which is good and something that I would agree with while I was over there. I didn't see many overweight people or underweight people. They were kind of in a good range. And then overweight, 38% of men are overweight. Not as many women are overweight, 23%. Again, that lines up with what I saw. And then as far as underweight, 18% of men are underweight, and then 19% of women are underweight. And this is according to a website I looked up that you will see on the reference sheet later. So that tends to be what I've seen, that most of the people are healthy, and that men tend to be overweight and women tend to be underweight when they are. And so this is the body weight people in England. So now on to fitness habits. Fitness over there, if you ask people, most people would say they don't really exercise regularly. In fact, 30% said that they never exercise, and it was due to a variety of reasons. The biggest being the motivation. They don't really have the motivation to work out, especially if they're trying to do it on their own. Another thing would be cost. They don't really want to pay for different equipment. They don't want to pay to go to the gym. So cost was a big thing. Time is a massive thing. Over there, they don't feel they have enough time to do it. And then the last one is personal image. Personal body image is that when they go to work out, if they're going to do it in public, they feel kind of ashamed at what they're able to do and what they're not able to do, and at their body and stuff like that. And so personal image is a big thing that is a motivator for whether or not they exercise. Now, the people who love to exercise and the people who do exercise had three main ways of exercising. The biggest one is biking. When I was over there, I lived in a little village, and in the village, one of the biggest complaints was that they hated driving on the roads there and in and out of the village because there were so many people cycling on those roads, on those country roads. And so biking is a massive thing over there. Cycling is a big thing in England, and a lot of people like to cycle, and they have loads of clubs and stuff like that for cycling. The next one is running. That is a popular exercise for people. They like to run and jog and stuff like that. And then shockingly, the third one is swimming. This one is a little bit surprising due to the coldness of the water there, but a lot of people like to go into different local swimming pools and swim, and they quite like their swimming exercises. On average, men are more active than women, so that's just an interesting fact. And then as far as exercise as a whole goes, even though a vast majority of the population would say that they never exercise or they rarely exercise, they do on average exercise probably more than Americans, because in England, since everything is so close together, there's not as much need for cars. So not everybody drives a car. In fact, I would probably say about 60% of the population maybe have a car, and the rest don't, because they don't feel the need for it. And so they do a lot more walking on a daily basis to places. They get out a lot more. They don't really stay in the house. TV isn't as big a thing over there as it is over here. And so they're not stuck in the house doing TV and stuff like that. In fact, I lived with two families, both of which did not even have a TV. And so they were out and about a lot more. And that's not everybody, but obviously there are more people that don't own TVs over there than probably in America. So just the idea of getting out and walking and just being out and exercising is more of a part of their culture than it is in America. So they probably get more exercise than people give themselves credit for. So that is kind of the fitness habits of England. As far as nutrient guidelines, England's nutrient guideline is the Eat Well Guide, which I have a picture of that we're going to look at. And this is kind of what they go off of. This is what the government recommends for food for a healthy diet, how they recommend how much, that different type of thing. So we're going to look at that. And this is a picture of the Eat Well Guide. It has your circle of the food you should be eating and how much approximately. So over in the green, you can see the fruits and vegetables, and you can see that a vast majority of the food you eat should be fruits and vegetables. And they've kind of put some of the different fruits and vegetables in there in which you should be eating. On the yellow side is your potatoes, your bread, your rice, your pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates, and those should make up quite a big portion of your food, and that's what they suggest you eat a lot of, and they do eat a lot of that. And then we've got in the red pink area, we've got your beans, we got your fish, we got your eggs, meat, and other proteins. And so that's kind of their recommended size and what different types of things they should be intaking. Then in the blue, you have your dairy products. Cheese is a very big thing over there, and so is milk. They drink a lot of tea and coffee, and in fact, so much so that I had a host family where the husband, the man in the house, he drank on average 7 cups of tea, hot tea, a day with just some milk. And so that is quite a big thing over there. And so teas and coffees will be a major part of their diet, and probably a major part of some of the issues maybe they have within that realm of nutrients, because of how much tea and coffee. They cannot go without tea and coffee no matter where they go. So that's a big part. So dairy and that kind of thing is big. And then in the purple is your oils and your spreads. And this is the recommended amount you should have in the purple, the little small area. And so, yeah, this is your recommended amount. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Here is the reference sheet if you need to go back and look up anything I was talking about. And yeah, have a great day.